Chapter 53 of Shrimadbhagavatam, The Truth Underlying the Story. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. King Prachinabarhis sat silent for a while after Narada had related the story of Puranjana. Narada said, "This is Brahma Vidya. Even as Narayana favors his devotees without their being aware of his presence, even so I have tried to make you realize the truth without making the lesson obvious. The teaching of Brahma Vidya was in the form of a story. I have tried to make you see yourself as the imperishable. I want you to know the truth about yourself." Prachinabarhis said, "Please explain it more fully, my lord. Ordinary mortals like me cannot grasp the truth so easily. Tell me clearly once again what the story means." Narada said, "I will certainly do so. I came to you only with the intention of teaching you Brahma Vidya. I am happy that you want to know more about it. Listen to me carefully. I will begin with the word Puranjana. The Purusha who pervades and illumines the body he has assumed is called Puranjana. He has created the Pura, the city where he has decided to dwell, and so he is named Puranjana. And so Puranjana is the Atman which resides in the body. The divinity in him is not seen, but it is always there to guide him in the right path, and that is Avijñāta. In the beginning, after the Pralaya, where there was nothing but the Brahman, the Purusha was all by himself. After the manifestation of universe by the Maya of the Purusha became Prakriti also. Out of Prakriti came its other form, the Mahat Tattva, which became the Aham Tattva. Then was the Jivatma manifested. The Jivatma became restless and wanted to experience the world of objects. He then entered the human body, which is made up of the 9 openings, the 2 eyes, the 2 nostrils, the 2 ears, the mouth, and the 2 excretory organs. In combination with the mind, the Jivatma is able to experience the worldly objects conveyed to him through the sense organs. The mind is necessary for the process of this enjoyment. Now, you will be able to understand the analogy of the city by name Bhogavati. The human body is Bhogavati, the home of all enjoyment. Puranjani, who helped Puranjana to enjoy the worldly pleasures, is the mind. The Buddhi, as it is called. The 10 attendants who were with her are the 10 Indriyas, the Jnanendriyas and the Karmendriyas. And the many functions of these Indriyas are the hundreds of female attendants of the 10 men. The snake with the 5 heads is Prana, the breath of life, and the 5 heads are its 5 variations, Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udhana, and Samana. When the Jivatma wants to enjoy the things of the world, he does so with the help of the 9 instruments of perceptions, the eyes, the ears, etc. And that is why the 9 gates are said to lead into the city or lead out of the city. When the mind is bent on the world of objects and in the enjoyment of them, the Atman also has to do the same, since it has become attached to it. That is why I said Puranjana did all that the woman did. He had lost his identity, meaning he had forgotten his real nature. The garden surrounding the city of Bhogavati, where Puranjana met Puranjani, is the world of objects which gratifies the senses. When the Jivatma gets involved with the mind, the Buddhi, his desire being the pursuit of the world of objects and the pleasures, to be derived from it with the help of the senses, then he said to have become involved. The real nature of the Jivatma becomes enveloped in Maya, and he suffers the pains and pleasures of the world. The 100 years which he was allowed to spend with the women in the city Bhogavati is the span of life granted to man. Chandavega is time which moves ruthlessly on, and 360 Gandharvas are the days in the year, while dark counterparts, the women, are the nights. They surround the body and eat up one's life without any consideration for the man who wants to fight them, to hold them at bay. Jara is old age, or rather the decay which sets in with the advent of old age. Naturally, Jara is not welcome anywhere, and it is but natural that she should team up with death. Death is called Yavaneshwara. The Yavanas are the desires of the mind and those of the body. Prajvara is fever, affliction which hastens death. When the Atman becomes conditioned by the equipment made up of the body and mind, it develops the qualities I and mine. When these enter the mind, along with them come the many sufferings which the body undergoes, and the Jivatma too, since it has become involved with the body, its pleasures and its pains. What then is the cure for this? Man dreams, and during his dreams he undergoes all the feelings, emotions, pleasures, and sufferings of that dream world. He has identified himself with the man who is dreaming, and naturally the sufferings of the one are the sufferings of the other. This state of things will continue until the dreamer awakes. The moment he awakes, the dreamer knows that all that he had been going through was not real, that it was all conjured up by the dream state, and that he need not suffer them because he is awake. He knows the truth about his dream, but unless he wakes up, and until he wakes up, it is not possible for anyone to convince him that it is all false, that the dream world just does not exist. A dreamer has to wake up in order to realize that he was dreaming. Even so, the involvement of Jivatma with the body and the mind is like a dream. No amount of intellectual arguments can convince him that his sufferings are all false. He has to wake up from this dream to realize the truth about himself. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 54 of Shrimadbhagavatam, The Road to Freedom. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The only way which has helped man to learn about the truth is devotion to Lord Narayana. He is the cause of everything, and he is the refuge of all sufferers. Devotion to Narayana makes the mind detached from the world of objects and it makes you realize the true nature of the Jivatma, that it is not different from the Paramatman. Listening to the stories of the Lord, thinking on him day and night are both sure remedies for the misery called the cycle of birth and death. In the story of Puranjana, when he died, he became the daughter of Vidarbha in his next birth. He was fortunate to have been born to a good man, and he became the wife of Malayadhwaja Pandya, who was a devotee of Narayana. A daughter and 7 sons were born to them. The daughter was Asha, desire, a desire to listen to the stories of the Lord. The 7 sons were Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Padasevana, Archana, Vandana, and Dhasya. The association with the devotee of Narayana will make you adopt the 7 ways of worshipping him. When there is a desire to listen to the stories of the Lord, then you get the other ways of worshipping him also. You begin with Shravana, listening to the stories of the Lord. After that, Kirtana, reciting them incessantly. Smarana is remembering them by repeating them in your mind. Padasevana is devotion to the Lord, a surrender at his feet. Archana is worshipping him. Vandana is praying to him, and Dasya is becoming a slave to him and only to him. When one is engaged in these, the mind breaks away from the bondage of karma, and in a short while, the Jivatma will realize its true nature and become one with the Paramatma. Puranjana became one with Avijñāta. I will illustrate the lesson with another example. Consider a deer wandering in the garden. It has found a mate, and the garden is full of green grass on which it can live for its entire lifetime. The flowers growing there and the gentle breeze wafting across the garden make the deer so happy that he thinks there is nothing which can ever spoil his bliss and his contented life there. But all the while the dread wolf, which is bent on eating it up, is standing there in front of it. In its preoccupation with its mate and the beauty of the garden, the heavenly taste of the grass, and the wonderful breeze which is blowing across the garden, the poor deer does not see the wolf, nor it is aware of a hunter who is even now aiming his dread arrows at it from behind. Man's life on earth is even like that of the unfortunate, careless deer. The pleasures of the world are as evanescent as the scent of the flowers in the garden. Man and woman wander around in this little garden in search of the fleeting pleasure found in the company of each other. All the while, time, in the form of a wolf, is waiting there in front of him, and he does not notice it. Behind him is death with 1,000 diseases in the form of arrows. He sends the arrow one by one, and yet man does not understand the message, does not heed the warning. Narada paused for a while. He then said, I told you the mythical story of Puranjana because I wanted you to realize that Karma Kanda leads you nowhere near the absolute truth. You are superior to ordinary human beings who think they can reach the heavens by performing yajnas. The karmas you have been performing will only give you the things of this world, and you should try not to get involved in them. You should strive for something higher. Pleasing the Lord and trying to reach Him are the only things a man should do. The company of sadhus will develop in you a love for the Lord's stories. When you pursue the 7 paths, you will finally reach the last stage, which is surrender, Atma Samarpana. When the ego is completely surrendered, there is liberation. One who is ever thinking on the Lord will never be troubled by the objects of the world. Pain will not hurt him, nor will he be elated when pleasures come his way. He will achieve evenness of mind, and that is very near the Brahmi state. Jivatma and the Paramatma will merge into each other, and there will be no births and deaths. So, forget this path which you have been pursuing and devote the rest of your life to the meditation on the Lord. For a long moment there was silence in the royal hall. The king had tears in his eyes, and he said, Indeed, my lord, in your infinite kindness you came to me and showed me the one and only path which will lead to salvation. It is evident that my gurus either do not know this truth, or they did not think of initiating me into this wonderful secret. I have tried to follow very carefully what you have had the grace to teach me, and with your blessings I may reach the feet of the Lord by the 7 paths of approach. Please bless me. Narada was very pleased that the king was enlightened, and after blessing him, he went back to his Siddhaloka. King Prachinabarhis renounced his karmas. He renounced his kingdom, and his mind was dwelling night and day on the feet of the Lord, and not long afterwards he reached the lotus feet of Narayana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamast. Chapter 55 of Shrimadbhagawata, the Prachetasa brothers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The Prachetasa brothers were 10 in number, and as already mentioned, they were the sons of Barhishat. He had asked them to perform tapas in order to fit themselves to continue the line. They had accordingly set out to the forests to do what their father had asked them to do. They travelled towards the west, and while they were so engaged, they found an immense lake which was almost as large as the sea. It was filled with water which was clear, pure, and without any waves, like the mind of a sadhu, which is without any agitations. Fish were there inside the lake, and lotuses, red, white, and blue, were floating on its surface. Water birds made sweet music, and this was echoed by the music of the bees, which were drunk with the honey from the flowers abounding there. Perfume-laden breeze was blowing across the lake, and brothers stood there as if spellbound. They heard sweet music, and they were intrigued as to where it came from. All of a sudden, out of the heart of the lake rose the Lord Mahadeva, with all his attendants. He was glowing golden, and his beautiful neck was black with the poison which he had swallowed for the good of the world. A smile lit up his face, and the princess, after a moment of stunned wonder, fell at his feet and worshipped him. He blessed them and said, I know you are the sons of Barishat, and that you are great devotees of Narayana. I also know why you have come to the forest to perform tapas. I have come to you to help you. I will teach you the great incantation which will make you see the Lord in person. Mahadeva taught them the Rudra Gita, which is an invocation for Narayana, and said, if you repeat this mantra every day with a steady mind, you will attain whatever you desire. He then vanished from their sight. The Prachetasas entered the ocean, and there they performed tapas for a long time. Narayana, pleased with their devotion, appeared before them and said, I am pleased with your tapas. Ask me what you desire most, and I will grant you that. I know that you have been commanded by your father to perform tapas in order to continue the line of kings. I assure you that a son will be born to you who will be a Prajapati. His fame will spread all over the world, and he will be remembered by posterity. There was once a rich rishi by name Kandu, and he was performing intense tapas. Indra, with the intention of disturbing his tapas, sent down to earth an apsara called Pramlocha. The rishi became so enamored of her that he spent many years with her tasting the pleasures of the senses. A daughter was born to them. Pramlocha abandoned the child in the forest and went back to the heavens. The child, which was weeping, was adopted by the trees of the forest. Taking pity on the child, the moon came and placed his index finger into her mouth and fed her with nectar. The child is now a woman. Her beauty is heavenly. She will be the wife to all of you, and she will bear a son who will be a Prajapati. The Prachetas were overwhelmed by the sight of the Lord. Composing themselves, they fell at his feet and praised him. Accepting their worship with a gracious smile, Narayana vanished from their sight. The brothers then rose out of the ocean, and they saw the entire face of the earth covered by trees, and nothing could be discerned. They became angry and tried to burn the entire forest. Brahma came to them and asked them to forbear from their rashness. The trees that were still remaining brought out their foster daughter Marisha, also known as Tarkshi, and gave her to the valiant brothers. All of them married her. A son was born to them, and he was Daksha. It was the same Daksha Prajapati who had insulted Mahadeva long ago. He had been born as a human being because of his disrespect to Mahadeva once upon a time. The son grew up, and when he was old enough to be throned, the Prachetas crowned him and left the kingdom for the forest. On the way, they met Narada. They spoke to him humbly and asked him to teach them the path to salvation. When he went away, they remembered his teachings, and they also remembered the words of the Lord, that they would be assured of a place at his feet when they were ready to abandon the world. They set their minds on the feet of Narayana, and soon they reached him. Here ends the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Vidura here takes leave of Maitreya and proceeds towards Hastina to see his brother and Yudhishthira. His sole aim in going there was to make his brother realize that he should get ready to abandon the world and reach the feet of the Lord. It is interesting to note one detail. When he is questioned by Yudhishthira about his travels, Vidura does not tell him about the tragedy at Prabhasa. He was very soft-hearted by nature, and he could not bear the sight of suffering in others. He did not have the heart to give them the terrible news about Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 56 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Priya Vrita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Swayambhu Manu had, as has been said before, 5 children. Akuti, Devahuti and Prasuti were the daughters, while Priyavrata and Uttanapada were the sons. Devahuti was the wife of Kardama and the mother of Kapila. Akuti became the wife of Ruchi and her son was Yajna. Prasuti was the wife of Daksha and the mother of Sati. Uttanapada was the father of Dhruva, the favorite bhakta of Narayana. Priyavrata was the elder of the 2 sons, but early in life he had heard the teachings of Narada and he had no desire to rule the kingdom. He asked his brother Uttanapada to take up the burden of ruling the kingdom and went off to the forest to perform tapas. Uttanapada was ruling the land for many years. After him, Dhruva and his descendant ruled the land. Prachina Barhis and the Prachetasas were the descendants of Dhruva. Daksha, the son of Prachetasas, went to the forest to perform tapas after abandoning the kingdom. Manu saw that the land was without a ruler. He knew that it was not right. Much against his will, he went to the forest and tried to coax his son Priyavrata to come back and take up the task of ruling the kingdom. His mission was fruitless. He therefore left it to Brahma, his father, to try and coax Priyavrata. In a cave in the forest, Priyavrata was conversing with Narada, and to him came Brahma. The cave glowed with an unearthly glow because of the presence of Brahma. Priyavrata at once stood up, and so did Narada. Brahma smiled at his grandson and said, "My child, please listen to my words very carefully. The Lord, whose commands we should all obey, and which are obeyed by all of us, has ordained that you should do your duty as king. This human body given to you, is for a purpose. You are meant to live the life of a normal human being on the earth. Each one of us has been created for a purpose. We are helpless in the hands of the Creator. Look at the bullocks which plough the fields. They have ropes running through their nostrils, and as the farmer leads, so moves the bullock. The jerk of the rope is what he has to obey, and he has no power to act on his own. Even so, we are led by the Lord in whatever walk of life He has chosen for us. We are not free even to act as we like, nor to enjoy the things of the world as we like. We cannot choose pleasure or pain. They are sent to us alternatively, or perhaps together, or singly. We should not question why, only we should bear them with equanimity. Man should live in the world performing the actions he has been created to perform, and he has no right to refuse to do so. However, if he moves without any attachment to the things of the world, he can be free of further births. He is then a Jivan Mukta. He moves in the world of men as long as the Lord wishes him to, and such a man will view pleasure and pain like a dreamer views the world of dreams after he has awakened from sleep. Such a man will not acquire any vasanas which cause a further birth in the world, nor will he have to exhaust the vasanas, since his actions are all performed without any desire for returns. The man, however, who has no control over his sense organs will move from birth to birth, eternally like a man who has lost his way, wanders from forest to forest. The 6 enemies, Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, Mada and Matsarya, will always pursue him, and to add to the downfall and to increase its speed, his mind, his manas and the indriyas, the sense organs, will obey the summons of the 6 enemies only too easily, only too readily. He will always be caught up in the cycle of births and deaths. A man who has conquered his senses and who has realized that he is none other than the Paramatman is the best person to live in the world of men. Detached as he is from the worldly objects, he will be the ideal man to move up among men who have so much to learn, and this emancipated soul can help others who are sorely in need of help. The man who wants to conquer his indriyas should live the life of an ordinary man, marry, breed children, and at the same time try to conquer his arch enemies. Once he has subdued them, the perfect man can walk fearlessly in the midst of men. Think of the example of a besieged city. Enemies are attacking the city and the king defends it by taking refuge in the fort. The fort gives him succor. Even so, if a man takes refuge at the feet of the Lord, he can easily repel the 6 enemies, and he can at the same time enjoy the things of the world which have been given to him by the Lord to be enjoyed. After his span of life is ended, he becomes one with him. The Jivatma and the Paramatma become one. I am telling you all this, my child, so that you can come back to the world of men and rule the land like a good king. Yours is an emancipated soul, and so you will never be in danger of losing yourself in the enjoyment of worldly pleasures. After doing your duty, you can come back here and resume your search for peace. You have already achieved it, and that is why I am asking you to take up this task. Perform it for my sake, this selfless action of ruling the kingdom and continuing the line. Come back to the kingdom. With folded palms, Priyavrata listened to him and said, I will obey you, my lord. With a happy smile lighting his face, Brahma left the cave. Manu then came and, taking Priyavrata back to the kingdom, established him on the throne. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.